Welcome back. We are doing a developer blog. I've seen this one already, so I'm going to go back again and pick out the best questions and answer them and give my thoughts. But this one is a bit more positive, I would say. It's because they have Node0 on, who obviously is the guy that has way more information at hand specifically to do with multiplayer. So this one is particularly based around multiplayer and versus. There's not really any tour questions in it. There's not really any horde type stuff, so it's a pretty good one if you're interested in multiplayer. Wondering why there is a content production support donation thing there. That is because for this month I would have made £100 on YouTube if the AdSense actually worked and my account worked, but it doesn't. So I'm asking you to kindly, I guess, support me. If you have enjoyed the month's content of Gears, then I'm just basically being completely open and honest. That is the value Google put on me, £99.35. So if you want to support that, you can do. That is the value, completely transparent. Right, so let's go into the developer blog. Immediately when I watched this full developer blog, it felt like it had a much more sincere tone to it. It definitely, I feel, now I'm not saying I've had the impact because I don't think of myself that highly, but I think the way the community has recently responded, it's been quite vocal. I would say there has definitely been a tone it down on the fun element and be more sincere, because that's really what I got across from this blog, and that was good because that shows that they're listening.
We're going to go into some more detail from what we spoke about in the post, which I think are helpful.
Basically, I think, and I'm not saying they watched my feedback, but I'm pretty sure a lot of people told them that it's no good just telling us things of what's changing. We do actually need some details, and when we are like smart enough to understand the nuances, so don't be afraid to give us details. So in this one there's definitely more detail, which I like, and also my question got answered from the developer. So my question did get answered, and I'll tell you, I'll give you a spoiler. He said it was the best question he's had. He loved the theory behind it. So, you know, I'm always on point with my questions. So there we go.
Here. Thanks for the continued update. And
all right, so this one's my question. It's not on screen anymore, but he must have saved it. My question basically was, again, like I said in the last one, ask like theory-based questions, because I think they like theory-based questions because it helps the developers. Like, you get an understanding of what the developer thinks, and that's why I think Node0 really liked this question. Maybe it appealed to the developer in him. But I did ask, with the support style now becoming more and more common, and people are getting better and better at the support style, calling out, crossing, there's different tools in the game such as spotting that makes it way easier to perform as a team as compared to Gears 1. With that support style being stronger, do we also now need stopping power to slow characters down on top of all that support play? So we'll see what they say.
Updates and recent feedback. This was the guy that did the one of the a very well circulated Gears video on some feedback. And
That's
stuff
probably
like
the one
that.
I saw.
It starts off with talking about the movement distances and some of the animation cycles at the beginning of the video, mostly comparing Gears 1 to Gears 5.
Yeah.
So just as context for you. So one question he wants to ask: with the current design of maps and strengths of the support style of play, do you still feel that stopping power is a needed mechanic in the game?
That's a fantastic question. I think that what I'd like to see is, I don't think we can answer that right now. I think that, I mean, that's a fantastic question. That's like my favorite question of all time.
While you're thinking, this is perfect, this is thoughtful, there's an intent, it's not, there's a goal to the question, it's great, it's good, this is a good.
So like with the support fire strength, because all of the weapons, like the Lancer and the Gnasher, are weaker than the core ones in Gears and Gears 4. So like the point I think that he's making is that, like, with the relative strength of the Gnasher to the support fire, do we need like stopping power? Yeah. Our philosophy around stopping power was always to help the support make more impact. Yeah. So we've changed that a little in 5 to bring it also a little in the front to prevent some of the charging, which we found was a bit of a challenge. But we would like to see how it plays out at some higher end play, and make sure that for both the high and the low end that the dynamics are working out. We try to want to solve both of these at the same time. So I think it's a fantastic question. I think the to get an ultra crisp answer as to whether it should be on, off, or down 10% or 20%, I don't think we can say right now, but it's definitely one of the things that Jamie and I have on our list of, okay, like as the game evolves, we want to keep an eye on it and make sure that this is in the right place. So a fantastic question. I think you've identified definitely an area that we want to keep tuning in because we don't think it's finished. Yeah. So thanks for that.
And this is...
Right, so he obviously really liked the question, and he's basically saying that he would like to maybe tone it down a couple of percent if people think that way, if they get feedback. You could even turn it off. But the problem is, and this is the problem we're always going to land in, and this is why I like asking these questions, because you really get an insight into like whether it's the dev or the company or Microsoft, whatever kind of game they want to create, right? It's their vision. You can clearly see it there that if that upper end really wanted stopping power turned off, I think we could get stopping power turned off, right? But they're saying, well, what about the lower end? How would they feel if suddenly people were pushing them because all of a sudden their Lancer couldn't hold off an entire wave, you know? So to me, yeah, it should require really good team fire to stop a push. It shouldn't be so simple because of the stopping power. But I don't think it's ever going to get turned off because the lower end always have to be catered for. And I think we kind of heard the answer there, right?
And things like that.
It's very frustrating for us too.
Yeah, so it is frustrating. It does catch up eventually, but what...
Well, I mean, like, what's happening is the rewards have actually been, like, granted. It's just that the notification to say, like, hey, this is what got granted doesn't get to you fast enough.
Right.
And that's something that, like, the game just decides it's waited too long and is like, I didn't get those results, and decides to move on. So we are definitely working to address this problem to try to, to make it so that everybody gets their rewards reliably.
Yeah, right. So that's...
So they're basically saying that it is tracking it, but the system they use to track it and send it to you is probably slightly misaligned, and I'm using that word genuine, like, probably in the wrong context, but yeah, it's slightly misaligned, and it's either sending it to you too late or it's not sending it to you, but it is tracking it. That's kind of like how I've always had, I don't know, like seriously 1.0 in Gears, it would be tracking your kills, but then you'd get the achievement a lot later than you should have, that type of stuff. So it sounds like it is actually tracking your stuff, it's just not sending it to you, but they are trying to fix it.
Like, there's a lot of services that are interconnected. Rewards has to talk to a lot of them. So to get the rewards back, it's doing a lot of negotiating, and we have to optimize that communication so that it gets faster. Like, we want to get it down to basically something close to a few seconds. So that
we're perceived to have left the game. Let's call it a rage quit. We are giving them a little bit of we give them a timeout penalty, just as a kind of a gentle, like, hey, maybe you shouldn't be leaving the game in ranked matches. Due to these...
Yeah, basically what they're saying is because of all this crap disconnection, all the crappy servers and things just not working, they're getting rid of the actual ban timeouts, but they're keeping the whole ranked quit penalties, the RCR, the rank quit reduction thing. So basically what's happening is now you won't be banned for quitting and you won't get a time penalty for a little bit because they understand there is a lot of problems and people are disconnecting, but it still will build up. Which means probably when they turn it on, you might get hit with a large ban. That's the way it sounds, because it's still not wanting to encourage you to quit. So they're still keeping that rank credit whole system of, the more you quit, the less you get, which is good because obviously you don't want the quitters. But I think they might run into a bit of a danger that if they keep it on and they don't give people timeouts, then people might think, oh, it's safe to quit. And then all of a sudden we might get that situation again where when they turn it back on, people might get banned a lot. So I would just say if you can, just don't quit. That would be safer.
So we're going to be monitoring that because we want to make sure that people aren't being punished unfairly for something that's
not their fault.
That's not their fault. So we're going to continue to look at that. We're going to look at you guys' feedback. We did hear you around that one. So that one for us is a big stability, quality of life issue around
absolutely.
that. So that's great. So yay. So we're excited about that.
Let's get it fixed and then we can yay.
No, but let's yay that, more the yay about just the...
Alright, so I actually like this comment by Node Zero because Dana's obviously like the face of this show, and he's obviously like the more relaxed type of show type of person, and he's obviously like, yay, we've got through that, we've fixed that, but he's kind of like the technology guy, and he's kind of like, yeah, but we haven't actually fixed it, so let's not yay yet, because nothing's actually been fixed. It's all like theory and implementation still to do. So I actually like the fact he's kind of bringing it down a tone, because sometimes it can come across as like, we've discussed it, problem done, problem solved, when really like just discussing it and telling us you're fixing it is nice, but if it doesn't actually get fixed, it doesn't actually do anything for us. So it's I like the fact he like kind of interrupted him there and was like, let's not cheer just yet.
One that we've classified as our high priority is rank.
Yeah.
So right now, what we're seeing is that in some cases, in a lot of the cases, people are completing a rank match, and the information that they're getting at the end, their tier skill points, is inaccurate and inconsistent.
Yeah.
It seems weird for me to interject here to cut off the developer who's going to talk about ranks, but basically this is a really long answer, and at the end of it he effectively says these two things. The points you receive at the end of the game are completely random. It is absolutely broken. The system is broken. They need people to keep playing ranked so they can get information to help fix the system, and what they want to do is do a full reset at the end of the season, and then launch basically the new season where everyone's rank actually works. But they're worried about the fact that if they reset everybody's rank right now, everyone's going to be completely pissed. So they're kind of trying to not do that, and they understand that it's daft to ask people to play ranked when ranked is broken, but that's actually what they need, because they need active players playing so they can figure out what the hell is going on. Now, some people might laugh at that answer and go, wow, that's stupid, but I'm going to be fair to them and say that's actually a great answer, because I'd rather them come out and say it's completely broken. the points mean absolutely nothing. His exact words were, just ignore it. When the points come on at the end, completely ignore it and just play like ranked doesn't exist, and you're only playing ranked because you want a full lobby of that specific mode, which is how I play ranked anyway. I don't care about my skill rank. But I think that's a good answer, because let's be honest, there's no way he could have come out here and said that the points are working as intended, because I'm not the greatest player in the world, but I'm not like bottom silver gold, right? And I was almost masters, so there's clearly something going on. Sometimes I'll do really well and lose points, sometimes I'll do rubbish and win points. So that's what he's saying. The system is completely broken. They understand that. They need people to keep working on ranked so they can solve the system, and they realise how daft that sounds, like come and play our broken mode, but that's actually what they need. So it's a stupid answer and a stupid thing that exists in 2020 almost, but I think it's fair.
Either like at the next season, or if we need to reset them like a little bit earlier, and we're hoping we don't have to reset. But for a lot of players, it might make their experience a lot better if we do. So it's very likely that we will have to go through like another correction, like to fix this, which a lot of people were pretty unhappy about before, that after the correction, like they went down, and like we want to avoid that experience again. So we may just reset everybody, because we don't want that for them to think that it had to do with them playing poorly, right? So we want to just reset once we've got everything fixed, and then everything should unfold much better. And it's something that we given our experiences with the Gears 4 ranking, we were really looking forward to like having like a system that would help people like understand what's going on. And
actually, he regretted the fact it hasn't worked. He's sorry, and it came across as sincere. Now, what's interesting is they said that it's basically an entirely new system, and there's a lot of changes from Gears 4, and they're sorry it's broken. Now, all right, it's easy to say it in hindsight, because if the new system worked, I wouldn't be saying this. But if I was in control of TC, I would say we have got so many people coming from the Game Pass. We had so many people. We had 3 million players, I believe, and it toppled Fortnite on the Xbox for the first time in like months and months and months. Like, we're going to have an absolutely shed load of players coming to play our game. So even if it's slightly less competitive, even if it's not 100% perfect, it needs to work. They need to play it and be like, this is pretty good. I might stick around for it to get even better. But what ended up happening was they ended up bringing in all these new systems, all these new communication lines for apps, and yeah, I'm using the word app, I don't mean app, but you know, things to talk to each other, servers, etc., reward systems, now the new ranking system, and it ended up just completely breaking and then people leaving. So yeah, let's say the ranking system in Gears 4, when it fully worked, was like a 60% perfect system, and they were trying to aim for a 90% perfect system in Gears 5. What would have been better is just to leave that 60% system fully working for the whole Game Pass duration, and then slowly improve on it. Which, again, you could look at that as lazy, like, man, you should always be trying to improve your systems, which I agree with. But when you've got this many new players coming to the game, for me, if I was like running the company, it doesn't sound like a smart idea to add a load of new stuff that could potentially break and you don't know if it's going to fully work when there's so many new customers coming, right? It's like the equivalent as if you were like running a restaurant and you've got this menu that like people, like a lot of people really enjoy. Like some people don't enjoy it, but 80% of people enjoy it. And then your restaurant gets really popular, and then a load of like famous people come in, and it gets really, really popular. And then you decide you're going to change your whole menu. That you're taking a risk, right? I would have just kept it ticking over whilst the Game Pass and all the other bugs got ironed out. Like there was too many problems at the beginning, like broken ranks, there was too many problems on top of each other. There it is on his head, and he shot and it missed. Now maybe as he picked up the gun, the character ducked, which again is again another problem. But how did that miss?
A lot of consideration. We really wanted to be sensitive to like the community here. We really wanted to have like showcase our new maps,
Yeah.
and that we wanted people to be playing on these new maps. We're totally happy to put the other maps in rotation, but we wanted to make sure that that was what like the vast majority of the community wanted.
Correct.
Right? And like
All right, and I guess I agree with that, because if they made Gears 5 and the new maps, because we'd not played all of them, if the new maps were absolutely brilliant, we might want to play on all the new maps because we'd be bored of the older maps, right? Because we've all played them. So it could have been that the Gears 5 maps came out and they were absolutely brilliant, and everyone's like, wow, like, yeah, this map suits this game and it's really fun to play, and I don't want to go and play the old Foundation. So what they did was they held back putting in a load of Gears 4 maps, because probably a load of people that were veterans of the game would have seen a Gears 4 map come up in the rotation, just voted for it, and everyone would have been playing on old Gears 4 maps. And then people might have been arguing, man, I'm playing Gears 5 and all the time I'm playing older Gears 4 maps. So they wanted people to, I guess, experience the new maps and tell them what we think. So I don't really like the new maps. I don't think they're awful, I just don't really think they're good. But again, yeah, I actually did like playing on the new maps because I was a bit bored of the older games, but now it's got to the point where I would like to see some other maps, so it is probably right that they're putting more maps in.
As the weapon balance. Oh, Liam jumping in reclaimed right now. I see you are working on fixing the Lancer, but most of the competitive community agrees all starting weapons are in a good place. Don't you think auto-aim is a big factor as to why the Lancer is a problem in every other game type? Auto-aim wasn't an issue in the tech test because of the game types offered. There's a lot to unpack there, and I think there's...
Alright, so this is the question about aim assist. We've had questions about aim assist before. We basically get the same response, except slightly different. Pretty much what they say is... aim assist, they may make a toggle so you can turn it on and off, and Node Zero, the guy in the middle, would ideally like at some point down the line that if you turned aim assist off, you would get a small bonus in, say, ranked play, like more credits or more scrap or something, as a little, you know, a little boost for saying you're playing it like in the true way. But he's not sure that they can do that yet. He then goes on to say that there are like 3 different types of aim assist, and 2 of them have been always in the game, and 1 of them has not, and that is kind of how it sticks. I'll let you listen to his example, but whichever way you call it, aim assist, bullet magnetism, stickiness, whatever terminology you use, I don't think it should be in the game. I think it's just way too forgiving, and me just playing a private lobby without aim assist feels completely different to playing online. If they add a toggle, again, I don't really think it's going to make any difference, because really, why would you turn that toggle off when it just gives you free kills? But I'll play his answer, and you can make your own mind up.
After we make this change, if they still have feedback on the new one, like, we want to hear that too. So it's something that we debate internally a lot around, okay, well, we're getting this feedback. Does that mean that we like just do like, you know, change it that way, or do we try to make sure that there's like we still reflect the people that may not be giving us feedback? And it's something that we take very seriously and that we spend a lot of time deliberating on. So we think that the aim assist, like, again, I just want to be clear, like, this has been in Gears for a long time. So aim assist is made up of 3 things. It's made up of friction and magnetism and adhesion. And so adhesion was new to Gears 5. Okay, so, but the other 2 have been there for a long time. So just saying Gears 5 has aim assist is like, and the previous ones didn't, isn't true.
All right, so he's trying to argue that Gears 5 isn't the only game to have aim assist. I guess he's trying to defend his choice. He's saying that it has friction and adhesion and all this, and that we're using the wrong terminology. Well, unfortunately, we're not like privy to the code of the game. We don't know the technical terms. All we know is the game is helping us aim, so we're just using the broader term aim assist. And I think it's pretty obvious that whatever setting, whether it be friction, adhesion, whatever, it's clearly too strong. Now, he does go on to say that in the new Lancer update, I'll tell you, just to speed up the answer, the rate of fire buff has gone from 20% to 10% on the active, and that helps headshots. You know, it lowers the top end damage from a skilled player, and they're sort of lowering the adhesion, but they said that they didn't want to lower it, this is their exact words, they didn't want to lower it too much because it might make the weapon feel bad to fire, because obviously when you're on a stick you're not quite as accurate and you might miss and it doesn't feel quite as good. Well, it didn't feel good in Gears 1 missing an entire clip of Lancer because I had to lead it across the map while somebody sprinted at me, but it was fair and balanced. And sometimes, like, you do make the Lancer feel good. Like, honestly, what's weird is when I did that video the other day and I was Lancering everyone across the map, it actually felt pretty satisfying Lancering everybody. Like, the Lancer does feel good, but it's too good, right? And unfortunately, you're going to have to knock that on the head and get rid of it.
But we're interpreting that as adhesion, so we've reduced the strength of the adhesion across the board, and we'll see how that plays. We do have some concerns that for you know, some portions of the user base, like the players, you know, it may not feel as good to shoot. So we've kind of dipped the long range damage curve of the Lancer a little bit to make it a little less effective at long range. We've reduced the rate of fire bonus by half on the active, so it does 10% instead of 20%.
We're going to post the full breakdown of what this is
But
in
those
What's
are
Up on Tuesday.
Those are the
when we made the announcement this afternoon or this morning about the changes. There were a lot of people that came out and were like, "No, leave the Lancer the way it is." So there are.
Right.
So for us, you know, we're.
I mean, obviously they're going to ask the Lancer to be left the way it is, aren't they? Because they're finally feeling good about themselves because they're getting some kills. I think you got to take that with a little bit of salt bay, right? You got to take that with a pinch of salt. Like, come on, like, you can't listen to those guys.
Near the Gears 5 character.
This is my video he's seen, so he has seen my video, and he's basically saying that partly the reason that happens isn't because of aim assist, but because each of the characters have different hitboxes, and in Gears 3, 4, and 5 they've unified the hitboxes. So when you shoot a character in a certain place it hits. However, I am 99% sure that regardless of hitbox in Gears of War 1, if I put that dot on someone's head around, it would miss, and in Gears 5 it doesn't. So they have unified the hitboxes, so like a big character like Ram isn't as useless as, say, a skinny Terminator, because if this was Gears 1, in fairness to them, the meshes were different. Like, so the big blocky characters like the Theron Guard clearly had a disadvantage. You could be stuck in their cape, whereas the newer games are more unified, so I do get that, but I don't think that's a hitbox issue, kind of.
Like, always the funnest in these streams. But something you should all know about that I was talking about on Reddit earlier is we do have general tuning improvements coming to Footsteps as well. So there's more audio changes coming for Footsteps. Which TU it's in is still TBD. It's more likely not the next TU.
So, like, here's like an example of, like, I just They do like some really good things and they do some really daft things. Like we all know like footsteps are super confusing. Like yesterday I was streaming and I was in the middle of the Icebound. You know the hill that you can't capture with the two towers looking where everybody lances? I was in the middle and I heard somebody melee behind me and I was like, what's going on? Someone's just meleeed behind me. How is he behind me? And it turned out he was like in the house a mile away and I heard him and it really confused me. And then as a result, I span round and then I got shot in the back because I wasn't looking. I thought someone was right behind me. So they're improving the footsteps and what sounds like the sound, which is great. But he says it's probably not in this title update, maybe the next one. Do people have, 3 months to wait for footsteps to be changed? I don't know. Alright, I'm going to skip all horde questions, all escape questions. I don't care about them. I'll tell you what happens in this podcast. They basically say they want to try and make Jack be able to spot weapons and show them on the TACCOM so people can see the downed weapons a lot easier. They still don't want people to play as 5 of the same character because it could break the game. Some escapes are coming in future tours and updates and stuff. Some are really difficult. They want to do a stream where they show how they get through some of the Masters ones, because some of them you have to be aggressive or flashbang, some of them you don't. There's different techniques. They love escape. There's loads of horde things that they're looking at. One of them is they want to knock 6 seconds off the scoreboard showing. And yeah, that's pretty much generally it. There's not too much in about horde and escape, but just want to skip that because it's not that interesting and there's not that many great answers on them.
I'll be happy.
Okay. What do we got here? Any news on the old Omen? Or the slider? I get.
Yeah.
People wanted. There was discussion about the slider.
There's 2 things.
Yeah.
One is the slider, which is currently in our plan to make. It's very unlikely we'll bring the old Omen back as an option. There's too many systems that the new one does for us with the...
Alright, so what he's saying is it's really, really unlikely they'll bring the old system back because there's so many new systems tied to the Omen, such as Stim, such as, you touch the ice and you begin to freeze, where you're getting shot from positionally. So it's really hard to give a certain toggle to say give me the old Omen, give me the new Omen, because that's going to get rid of all of the systems that work with the Omen. But they are going to hopefully, they said, give you an option to turn down the translucency of the Omen, which means it won't be quite as blindingly red, or they can give you a toggle for the old Omen, but as a player you have to know it breaks a lot of the systems. You wouldn't be able to see where you're getting shot from, you wouldn't be able to see if your stim is active or if you've touched the ice, etc. But if people aren't really that bothered about all that and they just want the old Omen, they could do, but their top priority is to make it so you can sort of tune the sort of overall opacity of the current Omen, which I think is pretty good, because the new Omen's awful. Your whole screen is just red, you can't see anything.
Like the ice and the stim and stuff, but again...
Alright, so this question is about the melee. People were asking about the melee range, the melee lunge, the fact that the reverse 2-piece, the whole shoot and melee is pretty instant, which I think my video showcased pretty well. Basically, the answer he gives is when the system and the game launched, they wanted to show off all the new systems and they were waiting feedback. The feedback is that clearly if you miss the melee, it is way too rewarding to miss the melee. You can just keep doing it, and they're kind of looking at the lunge, but to me it sounds like they're not really looking at the lunge and the whole lock-on thing. It sounds like they're just trying to make it more punishing if you do miss the melee. You can see me typing in the chat over here, bring back the melee stun, because I think that would fix it. I think if you swing and you get shot whilst you're meleeing, you should get stunned. They're trying to think of a way to make it more punishing if you missed, but just look back to the Gears 1, it was already solved. If you missed your melee, you got stunned. I think that's pretty risk-reward.
There's a risk-reward.
Yeah, exactly. That basically, if you kind of miss, there's a consequence to that where the other person gets a firing opportunity.
Yeah.
So that is definitely our approach.
Can never be earned. She isn't a cosmetic and does influence the games.
Just to be frank, she's from the Terminator. So it's another, we can't just give away somebody else's stuff.
And that's what I was going to say. It's a valid question, and when it comes to
Basically, what they say, there's a whole host of answers now, really. They talk about the ping and all this type of stuff, but this one comes up a lot. It was about the Terminators, and they're basically saying that they can't just give someone's property away for free because they actually came up with a deal to basically promote the Terminator, right? Which makes sense. But you've then given that Terminator certain abilities, and they said that the abilities aren't game impacting and she's not overpowered, but the fact is she has different abilities that other characters don't. So if you ever want to use those abilities, you do have to pay to play them, which I think is rubbish and should not be in the game. Yeah, maybe it's not the best character in the world for Escape or Horde or whatever, but you should be able to earn something that actually does have different gameplay features. They're saying we can't give it away for free because it's a Terminator, but the thing is, you came up with that deal. You could have just said, right, we'll put the Terminator in the game, but we're not going to give it any unique features. We'll do the skin, we'll do the model promotion, but we're not going to do the whole, unique things. They haven't come up with that. So that's kind of like a cop-out answer, I feel, because, yeah, Terminator haven't come up and said, we want these abilities in Gears. That's Gears of War have said, yeah, we'll add some cool abilities to it. So this whole idea of like, oh, it's a Terminator, so we can't give it away and basically like deal with it is, I still don't like it.
A licensed character, like someone that we don't own the IP for,
Yeah.
that we negotiated a deal with, a marketing deal in this case, with. There's certain things that come part of that, contracts and all that stuff, that we know that she doesn't bring it an advantage in the world of PvE. So we hear what you're saying, but it is in this case, it's a marketing deal.
Yeah.
In our, it is what it is.
And I think it was fantastic.
I get one.
For the record, hang on. For the record, this has also been an idea we've seen in the community. After Dana's suggestion, I just don't want anyone to think that Dana's like coming.
Yeah.
So the suggestion community, whoever came up with the idea, they're adding blood sprays to the person you kill. So when you kill somebody, the person that gets killed will see your blood spray, which is kind of cool because if they have some good blood sprays, then people will actually see them. But at the same time, I'm already imagining me dying to a Lancer and then seeing a Forza 4 blood spray on my screen, and I'm just trying to remain calm and imagine that scenario. Alright, so this was another one that got answered, and they really misunderstood the question. They went and revisited it again because I went to clarify it, and it was like 5 minutes later, but I'll tell you what they clarified. My question was, when someone is sat on the block of cover, it's really hard to see someone because there is a current bug or design choice that, I don't know if you've noticed this, you can't see the person's gun on their back. So when you're pushing someone and he's got a shotgun out, you don't know if he's got a boomer on his back, a Lancer, and it makes it really hard to make a proper decision of should I push this guy because you don't know what his full equipment is. Does he have a boom shot? Does he have a Lancer? Does he have a whatever, right? And also because when they're sat in cover, their gun is then on their back, it makes it way more visible as you're sprinting through the map to spot people because there's another thing sticking up, so it stops camping. What they understood the question as is basically, why are some characters not very visible on cover? And they said that we're going to try work on increasing the visibility because we know that is an issue, that some characters are definitely more visible than others.
And my last question, I'm glad my last question was well received. He was the stopping power guy. I have one final one. I find it quite hard to see certain characters when they're sat on a block.
He just means like sat on cover,
I
when
understand.
there's
okay,
darkness.
Okay, yeah. He showed that in his video of the Terminator 1. Part of the reason for this is is it a design choice or is there a bug? And then he also means it's hard to judge the weapon on their back because you can't see it. He doesn't know whether to push.
Right.
If you can't see that.
He kind of like, I feel like if you're going to read my question, just read it in full. I know maybe it's like scrolling or whatever, but like I feel like that was really misinterpreted. He was saying he doesn't know whether to push because I can't see them. That wasn't my question. My question was, why can't I see the gun on their back? And that would also help. Their answer was, yes, we're going to try to improve the feedback. And then later on, I re-clarified it and he said, oh, right, now I get you. He said that basically the gun not being shown is not a bug, it's a design choice because players, when they see somebody sat in cover and they see their gun, they try to shoot their gun and it feels really weird that you can see parts of the character that you can't hit, which I agree with, but as a tactical shooter, you should be able to see the gun on their back, and just through playing like 5 or 10 games, you quickly learn, oh yeah, you can see the gun on the back, but you can't shoot it. So I feel like that's a change that's helped the lower end of players and removed a lot of the tactical element and a lot of visibility. And I think when he said like it's really hard to balance that, I think it could be a good solution just to put the gun back on their back, because yeah, people might shoot it, but they'll quickly realize, well, you can't, and it also increases visibility. All right, so this was basically the last interesting question I could find, was about the ping. They just basically said, why are 8 people on EU all lagging? I'll play the answer in full, even though it's kind of a long answer. It kind of explains the gist of it. Is pretty much, would you rather have laggy games or no games, or massive wait time? Which to me sounds like, without them wanting to say it, is, yeah, the game's pretty dead and we're just trying to put players in any sort of games. They also said that they're thinking of doing a sort of a server selector, so you could say, these are the servers I only want to be placed on, like I only want to be placed on EU, and I'm happy to wait. I would prefer that, because I'd rather wait for an EU game than be pushed into an American one. And they also just basically said, yeah, like if you're playing a really random mode at a random time, like if you're playing EU ranked Guardian at 3 a.m, you might not be able to find a game, which again is just a player based thing. So they're saying, would you rather not have a game or have a game? And that goes for Australia as well. Like they can't move you closer to a server and there's not that many players. So basically, do you want to select your server or do you just want to get in a game that lags? We don't really know what to do, but it's a massive priority that they're working on. So I'll play the answer now.
Sure that it's a great experience, and we've got a few new things planned for it. We just need some time.
Yeah, the person that just said, please don't ignore this, about the EU ping question. Something like, why are we still seeing 8 people from EU with 100+ ping and only 2 with low ping, and on US servers doing EU peak time? That's one of the errors that we're fixing right now, that Ryan, we just talked about.
Yeah, and like again, like our matchmaking is a new system that we're tuning, and sometimes there isn't always a perfect answer where the problem is right now people are seeing too much of it, and like at nighttime, like when people when there's very few people online, in a region with less people playing in a smaller mode, like the question is, would you rather not play or would you rather have some people with higher ping, right? And I think we think that having people play, even if it isn't perfect, is still the right answer. So,
but there's also but in the case of what he's speaking about, at peak time, not Australia,
yeah,
in Europe, that's
right.
That's an error that we're
Totally
looking at fixing.
Right. I'm just saying that like there isn't going to be all of a sudden, every playlist you're going to get like
30 ping,
30 ping, like 5-second matchmaking times at a perfect skill level all the time, even when there's people are
you're
sleeping.
master
right?
level playing Guardian at 3 a.m.
with a 5-stack.
With
and
a 5-stack.
That's something that people just want to be clear to people. The more people you party with, it will take longer to matchmake. So your skill level kind of gets bumped up as you party with more people, and that means it's going to take a little longer to find somebody. So my recommendation for people that are playing in at different times where there's less people on, or in regions where there's a little less people, try solo queuing, and then you may get a match faster.
Wrap it up. They basically said that there's loads of stuff in Title Update 2 and Tour 2, which they're not allowed to speak about, because I guess there's skins and characters or something in there that they're not allowed to speak about. But there's loads of stuff in the Tour 2, which is coming out in a month or something, so stay tuned for all that. But they couldn't mention anything, I guess, because they're their hands are tied behind the back and they're not allowed to reveal certain content until a certain date. But that was pretty much it. They then sign off and they just thank people for sticking with it. They apologise, and it seemed like a pretty reasonable actual developer podcast. If you've enjoyed my feedback on it, if you've enjoyed my videos over the coming month and you want to support me, then please do head over to the description. There is a link to basically, unfortunately, donate towards what effectively would be AdSense if it actually ran. This month's content has netted me £100, which isn't paid to me, because it just can't be. So if you've really enjoyed the content and you want to support it and make sure I keep doing it, then if we hit that goal, that would be absolutely superb. So if anyone has the means or just has really enjoyed the content and wants to see more, then please do support me in that way. I wish I didn't have to ask that, but I do. Always, the likes and comments are the best way, because that's free and that promotes the video to other people and makes me reach a wider audience, because we don't have many subscribers. We're not millions of subscribers, right? So if you leave a comment or a like or whatever, it helps promote it. And as always, share it, because then other people that don't watch the channel get to see it. So thanks for watching. Peace.